Morning, everyone. Rob Bonta, California Attorney General here. Thank you for joining us. I'm here today to announce a lawsuit we filed against the Trump administration's Environmental Protection Agency, challenging its attempt to weaken critical restrictions on the super pollutant hydrofluorocarbons, HFCs for short. HFCs are an extremely potent category of greenhouse gas used for refrigeration and cooling. For example, they're used in the large refrigerators and freezers at supermarkets, bakeries, and convenience stores. They warm the climate up to tens of thousands of times more than the equivalent amount of carbon dioxide. And HFCs are among the fastest growing sources of greenhouse gas emissions in the United States and around the world, which is why for years the federal government, Congress, and states, including California, have instituted regulations to restrict and reduce HFCs and protect our planet from the global warming harm they cause. And the great majority of industry players have already complied. Now the Trump administration is trying to pass a final rule that would relax necessary restrictions on these chemicals, a move that is both detrimental to our climate progress, unfair to the businesses that have complied, and most importantly, unlawful. Together with Massachusetts Attorney General Andrea Campbell and Washington State Attorney General Nick Brown, I'm leading a coalition of 19 attorneys general and New York City to stop this proposed rule. Before I get into the nitty-gritty of the lawsuit, I want to thank the members of California DOJ's Environmental Justice and Protection Section and Natural Resources Law Section for their diligent work putting this lawsuit together. This is California's 78th lawsuit against the Trump administration in just about as many weeks, number 78. This lawsuit is based on the fact that Trump's EPA is trying to defy Congress's mandate that our country move away from using HFCs as refrigerant gases and transition to refrigerants with lower global warming potential. Congress passed the American Innovation and Manufacturing Act, the AIM Act, in 2020 with the clear goal of phasing out production and consumption of HFCs by 85% over 15 years. The law expressly authorizes the EPA to regulate HFCs, including by restricting use of them and helping facilitate the transition to other gases. A law, by the way, and this is important, that President Trump signed in his first administration. He signed this bill into law. That law is where the EPA's current regulations to reduce HFCs stem from. The EPA worked with industry groups, environmental NGOs, and other stakeholders to create the regulations based on facts, data, science, not based on political whims. Since then, most refrigerant manufacturers have transitioned over to non-HFC gases, a move that took time and investment. It took money. Now the EPA's new rule would undo the progress we've made and penalize the companies that have complied with the law. This rule pushes out deadlines for reduction for several sectors, including large supermarket coolers, allowing the use of far more potent greenhouse gases for several more years than the current regulations allow. EPA's rule fails to justify its about-face, fails to recognize the extent that stakeholders, including our states, industry, and the public, rely on the current regulations, is arbitrary and capricious and violates the American Innovation and Manufacturing Act. That's the core of our claim, that this rule, EPA's rule, is arbitrary and capricious, and it violates existing law, the AIM Act. It's for those reasons that we're taking the Trump administration to court. Again, make no mistake, weakening the EPA's restrictions on HFCs will accelerate the damage already threatening our planet. Trump and his EPA are choosing to open the spigot and flood our air with extremely potent greenhouse gases, and they're doing so even though most manufacturers have already put in the time and money to transition over to cleaner technologies that don't use HFC gases. They're doing so even though many domestic companies and trade groups oppose weakening the current EPA rules because they've already complied with the regulations. They're doing so even though reducing HFCs has bipartisan support, even had Trump's own support just 6 years ago in Trump 1.0, which makes you wonder why. I don't think it's a stretch to say it appears to have something to do with a small number of industry parties that have dragged their feet in making the transition. It's not a stretch to say this seems like the latest instance of Trump doing the bidding of corporations who seek to skirt the law, of Trump again putting industry profit over the health and well-being of the American people and the future of our planet. While not surprising, it's still shameful, and yes, it is illegal. At a time when our world is facing record heat, devastating wildfires, rising sea levels, and extreme weather, Trump and his EPA are choosing to roll back our climate progress. The bottom line is this: reducing HFC emissions is critical to avoiding the worst impacts of climate change. It's critical to advancing our climate progress and addressing the climate crisis strangling our planet. That's why California has long supported strong federal regulation of HFCs. We've litigated on the issue, commented on regulatory action, supported the previous EPA regulations, and successfully petitioned the EPA to enact regulations consistent with ours. Before the American Innovation and Manufacturing Act was even passed, California was the first state to adopt laws to reduce HFCs. Today, California continues to restrict HFCs used and sold in our state. As Attorney General of California, I'm proud to continue our state's legacy of leadership when it comes to protecting our communities, our nation, and our planet from HFC emissions. And I'm grateful that my fellow AGs in New York City are standing with us. Trump may not have concern for the future of our planet or regard for the law, but we do. And before I turn it over to questions, I want to take a moment to again thank the members of my team who have put their all into this work. While they don't do it for the accolades, they've earned them. Anadel Almendras, Mo Park, Natalie Collins, Debbie Smith, David Zaft, Keith Bowerly, and Meg Hay. Great team members doing incredible work. I'm grateful to be their colleague, proud of the work that they do. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions that you might have.